Video games aren't always just about graphics, but today they are. We're talking about Unreal Engine 5. It is a tool set that game developers use to create games. And with the newest technology in Unreal Engine 5, it can make some games look very pretty. So today we're talking about 10 upcoming Unreal Engine 5 based games that are shaping up to be looking pretty incredible. Starting off with number 10, Anime Tokyo. We're going smaller scale with something called Anime Tokyo. This is a project by a single developer that is essentially recreating a stylized version of Tokyo. It's been billed as dreamlike. And from what we've seen, even though it is clearly very much a work in progress, the level of detail in this city is pretty shocking. What they're going for here clearly is not ultra-realistic, hyper-realistic with like crazy textures and stuff, but more of a detailed, stylized world reminiscent of something you would actually see in an anime. The world they built here seems to be living up to the game's namesake. There's video out there about the developers really going in depth with a lot of things like restaurant art, billboard art, stuff like that. And it really shows. It's got that good blend of realism and anime style that just makes this perfect, almost dreamlike thing. I think for some anime fans this is like really what they've been looking for. And even if it's not like a full game experience where you're like running around and shooting and battling, just have a cool city built beautifully with good vibes is really appealing. Next over at number 9, let's talk about Immortals of Aveum. This one, despite the awkward name, is a pretty cool concept. Essentially it's like a first-person shooter Call of Duty campaign, but instead of elite tactical soldiers, you're elite tactical wizards. This is actually being made by a new studio and published under EA's Originals banner, which usually has some pretty good results. And it's from a team of game industry veterans, many behind some Call of Duty games. But this is a single-player first-person shooter story adventure where the main combat is you shooting people with magic from your hands. And from what we've seen of it so far, it's just a good old-fashioned video game. It's got a bunch of lore, crazy over-the-top characters, big set-piece moments, over-the-top levels. It feels like a good throwback to some of those shooter campaigns from like the Xbox 360, PS3 era. But the thing that really changes it are the visuals. From what we've seen so far in the trailers and the gameplay trailers, the game is looking pretty stunning. We've seen a lot of really cool cutscenes that are running in engine, and the characters look downright cool. I don't want to say like hyper-realistic, but they just seem expressive and hyper-detailed. And then you're jumping into worlds with all these magical effects blasting from your fingertips with some really nice lighting and big environments. While some things might look generic on the surface, and this might be a lot of flash and style over substance, it is certainly shaping up to look very pretty. I mean, who doesn't get excited at shooting wild, crazy blue, red, green magic from your hands and then do the explode. Sometimes even dragons. Yeah, you fight dragons. Everything is colorful, everything is lit perfectly, everything is shiny. And if anything, that's just like a graphical flex, and sometimes we're here for that. Immortals of Aveum is an upcoming game, but thankfully we don't have to wait too much longer for it. It's releasing this summer. Now next over at number 8 we have Unrecord. This is the game that really took the internet by storm when the developer showed it off. This is a small team, but they're essentially making a really intense bodycam, almost found footage style first-person shooter that looks so real that it's kind of hard to believe it's real, to the point where it blew up online, and the developer actually had to post proof that this is a real actual running game. I think this is for a couple of reasons. Number 1, the camera style and the filter over it can definitely make things feel more realistic because that first-person view is looking at hyper-realistic Unreal Engine 5 environments with all the tech going on. The texturing, the realistic lighting, all of that stuff. That stuff looks incredibly real, but then when you slap a kind of video bodycam filter over it, it's gonna look even more real because it's like obscured a little bit. It's playing a trick on your eyes to just make it look more believable. That being said, the way the game actually moves and plays, we don't know for sure how that's gonna work. From what we see here, it looks very almost nausea-inducing. But essentially what this is going to be is a tactical first-person shooter where you're kind of like a detective trying to solve this complex police case and investigate all these areas. I mean, from what we see, it actually just looks way more action-packed, and it seems more like you're just a badass shooting bad guys. But the developer did put out a Q&A breaking down like what the game is really going to be with at least some level of transparency, and they are gonna try and go for a nuanced story that isn't just gung-ho. Granted, this is the early days. We don't know for sure. And we have seen a lot of video game projects out there that look too good to be true. So plenty of people still have a lot of valid skepticism of this, like rightfully so. But just judging from the gameplay footage they've put out there that does seem like something running in real time, there's no denying that it's not pretty impressive looking. Even if the game ends up not really being much of a game or it plays like crap, what they have at least crafted visually here is downright stunning. If you ask me, I would just love to see a horror game like this. It's just begging for it. Am I right? I mean, I know the found footage horror thing kind of came and went, but there was some cool stuff there, and in video game form, they can knock that out of the park. So on record, whether that becomes a big thing or not, hopefully developers take note of how viral this thing went and make something scary with it. There is one horror game with this style in the works, but we'd like to see even more cause we just love horror games too. Anyway, I've gone on a tangent long enough. Next up at number 7, we have something called Project YU. This is definitely another kind of small experimental experience, but it's still worth looking at if you like to see fancy graphics. What they have established here, and by they, I mean apparently a very small 6-person indie team by the name specifically a YU production, is create a world specifically for an RPG set in like a virtual Korea. And what we get here is a beautiful and detailed metropolis with tons of beautiful foliage, all different types of atmospheric effects, insane lighting, and we get to see it all in multiple different types of lighting, times of day, weather patterns, and it's pretty impressive looking. From bridges to grimy city streets to the more colorful, brightly lit clean downtown streets, there seems like there's gonna be a lot of variety in this project. Granted, there's not too much to go on if you can't tell by what I'm talking about. All we have is a really cool in-game graphics video, and frankly that's about it, but it does look cool. Anyway, next over at number 6 we have Atlas Fallen. This is a really interesting looking third-person action RPG set in a mythical land with you as a powerful character that can wield magic to their whim in a kind of combination open world, Darksiders mixed with Monster Hunter. That's probably the best way I can describe it. We got to go hands-on with this game a couple of months ago, and it does seem like a fun kind of throwback style, traditional action-adventure game with some light RPG elements and some exploration, and some really over-the-top fights and traversal. You're surfing around environments specifically over sand, and it looks really cool. This game apparently is set in Unreal Engine 5, and although it's not like the most out-of-this-world looker, it does have some moments where it can be really impressive with some draw distances, detailed characters, and some really cool on-screen particle effects. The battles get pretty big and epic. Your weapons shapeshift, and while there is like a desert focus, it does seem like there's gonna be a variety of biomes, which will help with I guess flexing the power of the graphics they have going on here. This does release in August, and we're probably gonna be making a before you buy video on it, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled because this one seems interesting. Next over at number 5 we have Chrono Odyssey. This is apparently an MMORPG from a South Korean studio called NPixel. They're going big here. Apparently this is going to be on multi-platforms like PC and PS5. And the trailer that they dropped like a month ago is downright stunning. If this is a real game, this is pretty nuts. We see detailed environments, massive soaring buildings with tons and tons of little meticulous details on them, grassy fields, busy cobblestone streets, realistic looking horses, realistic looking characters with cool fight and running and movement animations, detailed bad guys. All of this happening seemingly in real time with a bunch of different effects like detailed flames, water, wind, foliage. This stuff is nuts. Is this gonna be style over substance? We don't know for sure. And to be honest, like I don't know how the heck a game that is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game can look this good, but if they take their time and really go all out, they could truly have something incredible here. And of course it's not all totally graphics. The combat that we got to see glimpses of does seem interesting, but with the gameplay reveal they did put out, the emphasis was seemingly on how pretty it looks. So if they're selling it on that really first and foremost, I still want to see more of what this game actually is. And we don't know when it's coming out, so we still have a lot of questions, but we know as of right now it does look very gorgeous. Next, over at number 4 we have Project M. This is another kind of a high-concept thing that we don't know when we're actually going to see this be a video game, but essentially what this is a presentation from publisher NCSoft, where someone in the company is like a digital Unreal Engine 5, recreated version of themselves talking about this new story-based simulated reality type game. That's their quote, simulated reality. I don't really know what that has to do with a video game. But what we do see here from this presentation is seemingly a very flashy, gorgeous-looking cinematic, story-based game seemingly based around making certain decisions with branching paths. We see really cool shootouts in detailed hallways. We see showdowns in cramped apartments. We see detailed shiny laboratories and grimy city streets. There's a lot going on here. And although we got stuff that looks like snippets of gameplay, we can't really verify how real this game is yet. But it is definitely NCSoft showing that they are here to play, specifically with the next generation of gaming and a budget, and also just clearly Unreal Engine 5, cause yeah, this looks really cool and all visually, but like we still don't have a good idea of what the hell this game even is. Moving on over to number 3, we got a real genuine game that's coming out soon to talk about, like it's tangible, we can see it. It's Stalker 2, Heart of Cannibal. Now this development studio has been through a lot to get this game out there. And although it has been delayed many times, it is shaping up to be pretty damn awesome. Now the Stalker games are significant because they really were incredibly unique on PC when they initially released and kind of created like their own subgenre in a way. So for the series to return but also return and look absolutely downright stunning, it's a big deal. We've been looking forward to this for a while. And as you can see on screen here, environments are filled with detail. The dark areas are incredibly dark and realistic with the light of a nearby fire dancing across the walls, detailed environments during the day littered with objects floating around thanks to a scientific anomaly. You're gonna be experiencing this all in first person investigating, dealing with anomalies, and trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, but also shooting bad guys with seemingly realistically modeled guns that you're gonna be able to manipulate and customize and see. And really it just seems like they're going full bore with this one. And not to mention the fact that it's going to be a technically non-linear story in a full open world. We really are hoping that the final product is as stunning as it has looked leading up to it because damn. Now down to number 2, we have Black Myth Wukong. We've been talking about this one for a long time, and essentially this is a Souls-like inspired action RPG developed and published by an Asian studio based specifically around the 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West. This is like classic mythology stuff. If you went to college and studied literature, you probably understand more significance of this main kind of monkey-like character. And while we saw a pre-alpha gameplay many years ago with a lot of people going, wait, is this gonna be a real game? More and more we've seen like more of it, where it's an actual real thing running in Unreal Engine 5. The developers have put out gameplay trailers, and we get a lot here. I mean, a lot of what we've seen and talked about in other games on this list, but also here specifically detailed character animations and some over-the-top gorgeous like almost lifelike looking bosses. I mean, lifelike is a stretch because like they are all like horrific monsters and weird things like that, but you know what I mean. Just the detail of the character moving, jumping through the water, the creativity of the way some of this stuff goes down, the snow effects. There's just a lot to this game that has stood out to us over the years looking at little gameplay snippets, and we hope to really see it soon. The developers have said that they had planned to release it in 2023, but it seems like now it's moving over to 2024. And it's definitely one where you want them to take their time and make something good because a Souls-like game with this level of graphical fidelity and just kind of a different type of setting and vibe based on the source material is something I think that the market really needs and something that the subgenre really needs. Now finally down at number 1, we have Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. This one is definitely stunning. If you can see on screen here, it's kind of beyond comprehension what they have going on here. Now we were big fans here of the original Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. If you haven't played it, you should definitely check it out. It is not a perfect game, but it tells a really cool story with a really cool presentation, and it looked damn good. But this time around, man, from what we've seen, the newest Xbox showcase highlighted a weird trippy sequence with Senua in a cave where things are going on. But the previous gameplay segment they showed with Senua fighting against a massive, giant weird guy, that's the only way I can describe it. That was insane. All the water, mud, and fire effects were just downright mind-blowing. But when you combine that all with some incredible performance capture and highly realistic faces, it all just looks very eerie, but in a good way. Honestly, at this point, from what we've seen, we've kind of talked this game to death. We haven't seen like moment-to-moment exploration or what regular combat looks like, but we have seen snippets here and there showing us that graphically this game is shaping up to be really impressive. It was one of the earlier darlings when Unreal Engine 5 was first kind of revealed, and they've been sticking with it, and it's shaping up to look pretty awesome. And we hope to see it soon because this one has been in the works for a while. So those are some really stunning upcoming games in Unreal Engine 5. Now, some of these games, like I said, are a little bit more smaller, indie or experimental, more project style, and some are big, massive AAA games coming soon. But regardless of the level of project, what do you think looks the coolest from a visual standpoint? Let's talk about this stuff down in the comments. We'd love to know what you think, but also if you got any suggestions for other games we should highlight in a part 2 of this video, please definitely let us know. We'd love that. But if you like what we do here, we talk about games and we put out videos every single day. All you gotta do is click the like button because it genuinely helps us. So thank you. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.